My name is Josetta Shropshire. I am president and CEO of Positive Promotions Ltd. We are a television and video and documentary film production company. We've been in business for more than 25 years based in Atlanta.
What inspired you to move in this direction of film production, documentary? What was your inspiration? What was your driving force?
I started out working in radio, then I went on to television, and that was several years, 30 years ago, actually, 35 years ago. I'm telling my age, but anyway, there were glass ceilings years ago, and women of color, Black women, could only advance so far. And I hit one of those glass ceilings when I was working in television, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to start my own company. At the time, I had no idea how challenging it would be to start a company, but I stuck with it, and we've been able to progress. And at this point, thank goodness, we're having and experiencing some success with what we do.
Oh, that's great. I've had the opportunity to go to your website and I saw Mother of Kings, and that was a great documentary. It gave me some insight about Dr. King's mother, who has her own story and her own voice. And I am so happy that I had the opportunity to hear her voice because I've never heard it before. So thank you so much for sharing her story. And can you tell me how what made you go in that direction with sharing his mother's story?
Yes, I'd be happy to share that story with you. First of all, I think that women of color, our voices need to be heard more, especially those women who have tried and true stories. The thing that made me decide to produce Mother of Kings years and years ago, I started understanding that there were more stories associated with the King legacy. And one of the earlier stories that I focused on was Reverend A.D. Williams King, who is the younger brother of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In the process, I began to interview people, and I would go wherever the story led me. In the process, I was able to interview some amazing people who are represented in Mother of Kings. And in the process, after I interviewed several people, I said, oh my goodness, there are other stories that are included in the interviews. And Mother of Kings, Miss Alberta King's story had not been told. And I realized that her story was included in a lot of the interviews. I interviewed Alveda King, and she was able to just bring everything together. So it really was an honor to tell her story because it's largely untold.
Okay. What struggles, if any, have you faced as a Black producer or documentarian?
There have been quite a few struggles, but the good news is I've been able to overcome most of them. Early on, I think the biggest challenge was that people didn't take me seriously. Mm-hmm. They just considered me a Black woman with a camera, but they didn't understand that I had a focus and a vision, and I was very, very serious about it. The other thing that was challenging was funding. Everybody in filmmaking, or I won't say everybody, but most people in filmmaking have an issue in terms of having access to capital to do what's necessary to produce films. I owned a production studio years ago, so I had the equipment. And what I would do is take my camera and go and sit down and set up and interview people. So this project, Mother of Kings, is self-funded. I think about Cat Williams and how he talks about owning your own, and it's really important that you don't let those obstacles stop you. Find a way, because there's so many stories that need to be told, and yeah, it's going to be challenging getting funding sometimes, but think outside the box and keep going. Be honest, don't steal, Don't go knock anybody in the head to get the money for it. Just
Right. Yes.
be honorable, and what you need or whatever is necessary will come to you in time.
Hmm. How has your cultural background influenced your artistic expression?
Mm. Culture is huge with me, huge. I have been interested in our culture. I've loved Black history my entire life. When I was a child, Ebony magazine was really popular then. Now, this is before the internet and all of that. So
Hmm.
we used to get magazines every month, and I would just read article after article. I just found our stories to be amazing. Um, and that's how I started following what has happened in Black America. Loved the stories of the ancestors that had gone before us. And as I matured and went on with life, I decided to expand my love of our culture, and I've traveled internationally. Spent a lot of quality time in Africa and in Egypt. And being in those places, I understand on a different level how powerful the history and the culture of Black people is. And one of my tasks, one of the things that I want to do is to bring this rich history and this rich culture forward so that it's preserved for this generation and for generations to come.
Okay. Are you working on anything currently? Any future projects that you could share?
Yes, yes, yes. I have one that's in production right now. It's called The Ancestors Speak, and it's information that I have garnered by being in Africa. I went and I lived in Cairo, Egypt. I spent 4 months there, traveled all around Egypt. I interviewed Egyptologists. One of the premier Egyptologists in the world is Dr. Zahi Hawass. I interviewed him, spent time, have gone to the temples, just all over the country, and found a lot of ancient information that is stored up for us. And I felt the need to tell these stories and bring it forward. And so the Ancestors Speak will be a series of stories, because I don't think we can do any fairness in one episode about ancient Egypt. So they're a series, and we're working on that. And one of the difficulties you asked me about that I had not mentioned was distribution. You get your project funded, but how do you get it out there? So those are some of the areas that we're working through now before we're able to release The Ancestors Speak. Where is it going to be seen? Making sure that people all over the world, especially Black Americans, see this story.
Oh, I'm looking forward to actually seeing that. I share my own experiences with Africa. I lived in South Africa for a couple of years,
Okay.
and yeah, Johannesburg, and had an opportunity to experience and see some things. So I'm looking forward to hearing about Egypt. That's one of the places I would have loved to have visited. So I'm looking forward to that. What?
Wonderful. So,
Go ahead. I'm
yes.
sorry.
No, I was just going to say that so you understand how culturally enriching it is to go to the motherland. Wherever
Yes.
you go, you're going to be changed and transformed in some way.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
advice would you give to a young, inspiring producer?
Hmm. I would say you're going to have to be tenacious. You're going to have stick-to-itiveness, not easily discouraged. There will be people that will try and discourage you. Uh, they may be close family members that try and discourage you, friends, because they're not going to understand your vision. Whatever the vision is, hold on to it and continue to know that you can find a way out of no way. I also would ask filmmakers to really examine the content. What are you producing and what is it you want to say? To be creative, to be honorable in your craft. please try and tell stories that enrich our culture, not tear us down, not make us look like buffoons. There are so many stories to enhance, that create pride, that advance the story of Black history and Black pride. And that's what I would ask young filmmakers to do, to understand, not to just catch on to what's a fad, but know that our history is so rich and so deep, and there's so many stories. Tell them, and tell them with dignity and pride.
Okay. And what does Black history mean to you?
Black history means truth. It means where we've come from. It means strength. I just think of what my grandmothers and grandfathers have had to go through, what they've endured. As a child, I used to sit and listen to my grandmothers, and they would tell about their grandmothers. So we have such a rich history and a rich lineage. Grab a hold to it and bring all of that forward. Many ways to tell so many stories.
Yeah.
I want to tell the Shropshire story. That's my family history. After we're able to tell some of these other stories, then I want to tell my own story. And I would encourage filmmakers to look into their own family stories and histories and bring all of that forward, because right now with technology, we can preserve things that last for generations. And when I went to Egypt, I understood that those were the archivists. The people that created the hieroglyphics created something that would last. So we can go back to that and hear those and find out those stories. And so we're the archivists of our times. That's what filmmakers are. So take this craft seriously and use it to tell stories that last for into perpetuity. They'll be here forever, we hope.
Oh, I love that. I love that advice. That's really good advice. Just one final question. Tell us, how can we follow you? How can we see your work?
Oh, okay. The best way is to go to my website. We're positivepromotionsltd.com. And on the homepage, I have 2 of our films that are there. And I do want to say, Mother of Kings has received awards. I was just really surprised and honored. But when I got outside of the United States, the world loves our story. They get inspiration from the civil rights movement. Here in the United States, I don't think we understand how powerful that movement was. It changed the United States, but it also changed the world. Civil rights gave people inspiration, and in places all over the world, they know now that change can come. If we act in a godly manner and we're persistent and consistent, things can change for us. And it's just wonderful to be able to bring that information. The way to find me is my website. That's the easiest way, and I'll always be updating our new films, and we're just getting started. I have so many more stories that have to be told. All of the information, the interviews that were conducted during the civil rights history as I was creating for Mother of Kings and Unsolved History, Life of Kings. I'm going to use the footage that has not been used and create Civil Rights Chronicles, because there's so many more stories. And I believe the world, particularly Black Americans, need to hear.